Welcome to Face to Face. This is a show about change and what's next. It's a show that asks questions and peels back the layers of our average everyday experience and goes beyond scratching the surface. We interview people doing incredible things who are making a difference around the globe. Join me as we listen in and get one step closer to understanding that big ideas shared create collaboration. Collaboration can inspire community, and communities create social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face to Face. So the next interview is with a film director by the name of Pablo Aguero and his film Eva Doesn't Sleep. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival recently. I had the pleasure to speak with him, and we worked through a translator. And what's interesting is we probably lost a little bit of in translation in the interview, but there is a ton here to think about, to consider, to reconsider. Actually, this is a film about Evita. This is a film about Argentina. It's a film about politics, but it's really a film about relationships. It's kind of a road movie, I suppose, in a particular way, but a very lyrical, beautiful, and poetic film that I think is going to be watched in film schools for many, many years. It's a film about perspective, and it's about subversion, and it's about fighting back and the power of the people. You're going to enjoy this interview, and look for this film. I hope it's going to be widely accessible in the near future. Eva Doesn't Sleep.
That's right.
Well, welcome to Face to Face. We are joined by a very special guest today, Pablo Aguero. His film, Eva Never Sleeps, English translation, premieres today at the TIFF International Film Festival 40th anniversary. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So we are going to be working through a translator, so please bear with us as we work through some lingo and language out there. But this is... Pablo, this is a film that I think on a certain level I found actually really challenging, just because of, I guess, the subject matter, I suppose, and yet I think it's fair to say there's the surface and then there's what's going on underneath the surface.
Sí. No sé si entiendo cuál es la pregunta. Es una afirmación.
Sí, es más un comentario.
Pero estoy de acuerdo.
He agrees with you.
So is one of the themes I thought that stood out for me, and this is very much a film that I felt like I was in a class to some degree. I was engaged. I found it compelling, interesting, but I also felt like I was in a film class. And light is so prominent in this film. The candles, the headlights, even the establishing shot of the headlight, which is remarkable, by the way, and beautiful. Can you talk about the light, the metaphor for you, for the story, for Argentina?
Sí, como lo mencionaste recién, la luz muchas veces es fuego en la película.
That is true that often in the film light comes from fire. It's actually burning.
Y la figura de Eva es la figura de una llama o de un incendio que nadie puede apagar.
And Eva herself is in a way a flame that nobody can put off.
So for you, is this a love story for you on some level, as a storyteller, as a director?
De amor y odio, como podría ser Amadeus.
It's more of a love and hate story, more in the vein of Amadeus.
Would you say that you were driven by hoping for a better understanding of your country's fascination with Eva? Is this about getting to a truer history? I mean, this is obviously a fictional account of real facts, real history. I guess, yeah, what are you, is this, because you beautifully weave, by the way, this narrative, gorgeous narrative footage with historical footage. So it feels like on some level a documentary and then an actual, a narrative film. So just wondering what you're trying to get to as the director.
Fue un muy largo trayecto de varios años de investigación y reescritura, investigación y reescritura.
It took a very long time, over 5 years of research and writing more research and more rewriting of the script.
Y pasé por varias etapas. En algún momento quise reconstituir la historia tal como ha sido, la realidad histórica, e hice una investigación muy grande.
So I went through different stages, and to one of those I felt more drawn to what's called the historical truth, and I felt that it was going to be probably more of an account in that sense.
Hice una investigación muy profunda y muy precisa que nunca había sido hecha.
I can say the kind of research that we did hasn't been done before. It was very exhaustive and very deep.
Pero a través de esa investigación me di cuenta hasta qué punto todos los testigos y los protagonistas de la historia dan su propia versión, que es siempre una versión tendenciosa, de acuerdo a sus intereses políticos o personales.
But during that research, I realized how every single party to the story has their own agenda and their own political interests. So every account, every version of the story has a perspective.
Eso me decidió a dar mi propia visión de los hechos, mi propia interpretación, y también a elegir un estilo, una estética, que reafirme eso todo el tiempo, que recuerde al espectador que esto no es un documental, es una versión posible de los hechos.
So later on I decided that I was going to come up with my own account, and that also led me to a aesthetic choice of trying to remind the audience constantly that they're witnessing another account, a personal account.
Y eso me dio la libertad artística para hacer una película muy expresiva, una película como alucinatoria, una película onírica.
So that gave me a passage to a more lyrical treatment, a more kind of dreamlike approach to the material.
Pero que al mismo tiempo respeta los hechos históricos tal como sucedieron.
All of these within the historical facts that are just facts.
Is this a political film for you? Is it a political statement, or is this more of a relational film? Because I sensed a real a sense of humanity almost deeply embedded in the film, especially ironically with the documentary-like footage, the newsreels. I got a sense for Argentina, a sense for the passion of that subversion, right? That desire to say we're not happy with the status quo. Does that make sense?
Hay dos sentidos de la palabra política. La política de los políticos, la política como el pueblo, la polis.
So there's, as we know, there's at least two different meanings for what's political, and one is the political war of politicians, and then there's the people as a collective.
Etimológico, el sentido etimológico mismo de la palabra.
Yeah, that's actually the root of the war.
The polis.
Yes, the
Yeah,
polis.
yeah.
En ese sentido, la película es política, en el sentido en el que la pasión es política, en el sentido en que rebelarse contra la injusticia es político.
So in that sense, the movie is political, in the sense of the passion of the people and how that moves them to rebel against oppression.
Pero no es política en el sentido de identificarse con un partido político o con una corriente ideológica.
But it has nothing to do with the politics as partisan quarrels.
So I'm wondering about your own history, about your own reasons for making such a film and for bringing such a stylish and beautiful, lush, I think is the word, edge to such an important sort of statement. Does that make sense? So here you've got this beautiful art house film, and yet you've got this really important social document about change and about fighting back and about oppression and about ideology and all of these things that, you know, And I said earlier how it played like I was in a film course. You know, you could write people will be writing essays about this film, I think, for sure. Students will be looking at this saying, you know, looking at the layers. And so I'm wondering about you, your own historical motivation or, you know, desires about the current state of affairs even.
Sí, escuchando tu pregunta me di cuenta de algo que no había pensado.
When I listened to your question, you just made me realize something.
Que hay una coherencia entre el contenido y forma en esta película, que está pero que no había formulado explícitamente.
I'm finding more coherence between form and content to my movie right now.
Es que es una película sobre la voluntad de no aceptar el mundo como es y de cambiarlo.
So, in a way, it is a film about the struggle and the will to not just take the war as it is and just go with it, but actually fight it and change it.
Ese es el mensaje de Eva, más allá de la persona en sí, es el mensaje que la gente conserva y por el cual lucha años y años a pesar de la represión.
So that's Eva's message, or even more, that's what she embodied for the people, and that's why they kept fighting with her ideals for over a quarter of a century.
Y eso es también mi manera de filmar.
And that's also the way I shoot.
Porque pienso que filmar una película tiene sentido cuando la mirada transforma la realidad.
It makes more sense to shoot when your own view transforms what's reality.
Eso no es una búsqueda de estilo como para estilizar o como para querer volver más estéticas las cosas.
It's not really about style or finding like a style niche or just to make it more aesthetical.
Es que cuando yo observo la realidad con mis ojos la transforman.
It's more that when I see reality, I'm seeing it with my eyes, with my perspective, and that gives shape to that reality.
Y eso es lo que ofrezco al espectador, otra visión de la realidad.
So in a way, that's what I'm offering to people, and that's probably something that makes the film unique and new, is that it's my own personal take on reality.
It's the CIA boycott.
It's probably the CIA interfering with the interview.
That's right. Yeah, sadly, it's just an ice machine, I think. They're cleaning up at the bar here at the Hilton in Toronto. So is this a film, I mean, clearly this is a film about death on some level. And I wondered, you know, on further reflection even this morning, if this was about a film. I mean, I love the images at the end of the torches and the gatherings, yeah. Right? The power of that, the humanity in that, the grassroots edge to it. Is this a film about the death of the individual in some way, or about is it a prophetic comment on potentially, if we're not careful, the individual will die, the voice will die, the ability to fight back might potentially die?
Pienso que estamos en una sociedad que es esencialmente cristiana y capitalista.
Our society, even today, is basically Christian and capitalist.
Y esas dos ideologías dan el mensaje de que el individuo va a trascender después de su muerte gracias a una fuerza superior.
Those two ideologies share the vision of the individual transcending death.
Yo lo creo de otra manera. Pienso que lo que sobrevive no es el individuo, lo que sobrevive es el símbolo, la voz, la idea.
I see it differently. I think it's not the individual what survives, it's more a vision, an idea.
La voz.
A personal voice.
Por eso elegí como inventar una especie de nuevo género en vez de hacer un biopic, hacer un necropic.
So that's why I found myself working on a new genre that's, instead of the biopic, is the necropic.
Mostrar cómo la vida de Evita, el mito, comienza cuando termina la vida de Eva Perón, la persona real.
Because there's this meaningful transition between, or how Eva's life as a myth starts after she passes as an individual. So she becomes greater.
It's almost her ability to change the world, or Argentina in particular, grew as her legacy kind of grew, it seems, on some level. What I think I love about the film is that, I mean, I hope it's seen by so many people, and congratulations again on the film, is that it is to me it's a statement about this idea that we can resist, that we can fight back if need be, that we have a voice, that there is power in numbers, and that, you know, you don't strike me as a cynic. You believe in hope, you believe in change.
Sí, incluso no, cuando digo que no es político en el sentido de los políticos, es porque la película no se pronuncia sobre la política argentina ni sobre el peronismo, no es el tema.
I agree, and going back to the film being political in a way, and not especially in the way of partisan politics, is because the film is not passing judgment on any of the parties in Argentina. That's not what it's about.
Entonces, incluso un espectador que pueda pensar que Evita estaba equivocada o que Evita era una persona corrupta,
so even a spectator that might find or feel that she was wrong, that she was
corrupta,
that even a corrupt person,
incluso ese espectador puede entender que el mensaje de Evita, sea sincero o falso, ese mensaje es inmortal, porque resuena en la gente.
and even if this person finds that her message is false or wrong, but it's still a message and still transcending her as just an individual.
Finalmente poco importa su sinceridad o no, lo que creamos en su sinceridad o no, importa cómo resuena su mensaje en el pueblo.
So in the end, it's not so much about the truthfulness of her message, but how it's still resonating with the people.
So there's a sense in which, you know, there's a arrogance on the side of the military, at least the way it's presented in your film. You know, God is just, right, is the phrase, or at least the translation for me. And we cleaned up Argentina of all immorality. And the statement comes right after the bombing. That statement is right after the bombing. So we basically killed a lot of human beings, and therefore, you know, we've cleaned it up. We've cleaned the country up. There's an arrogance, there's a condescending tone. We're right, you're wrong, right? Do you think Evita, Eva, had a trust with the people, or the peasants, as the military say in the film? Do you think that she was able to establish a trust that your country, and frankly any country, wants with their leaders?
Sí, creo que no he visto ningún caso de un político que pueda movilizar a multitudes a esa dimensión y con esa pasión, jamás.
I honestly haven't found another example of a figure, political figure, that can really move a nation the way she did it.
En las escenas documentales que están al principio de la película está la avenida 9 de Julio, es la avenida más ancha del mundo.
At the beginning of the film, the archival footage shows the 9th of July Avenue, which is the broadest in the world, the widest.
Y está repleta de gente hasta el horizonte, hay más de 2 millones de personas.
And you can see it's packed with crowds to where the eye can see. So there must have been over 2 million people right there at that moment.
Y gritando con pasión desbordada, están ahí para tomar el poder.
Yelling, screaming, really being there to take over the rule of the country.
Y ella no les está diciendo, no les está hablando un chivo expiatorio diciéndole hay que matar a los judíos o a los inmigrantes.
And she was clearly not haranguing them to go and attack another minority or take over from the military or anything. She was not demonizing anything. She was just moving them.
La frase que les está diciendo es: no hay fuerza capaz de aplastar a un pueblo que es consciente de sus derechos.
What she's saying is there's no force that can quash a people that knows their rights.
So, died in 56, is that right, or 52?
52.
1952, 33 years old, is that right? 33? So, I mean, I think it's the first time I've seen actual footage of her speaking. And immediately I go, this woman was way ahead of her time. You know, women's movement, labor movement, for the people. I mean, obviously leaders have talked about these things over the history of mankind, but to see a woman doing it in a foreign country, and I say that with a small f, not a capital F, and I mean it in a good way, from a Western perspective, or a global Northern perspective, you go, we're the leaders, aren't we, when it comes to gender issues and it comes to voting and so on and suffrage? But here was this incredible woman who was standing out from everyone else, it seems.
Yo pensaba que más o menos en la época en la que el peronismo accede al poder, que promueve el voto de las mujeres y igualdad de derechos de los trabajadores, en Estados Unidos los negros no podían todavía subir al colectivo con los blancos.
Well, by the time Perón took power, and he already started encouraging female vote and social, like, grassroots movements for still in the States, the African American population was not even allowed to share public spaces.
Seguramente por eso lo bombardearon.
Bombardearon Argentina?
Sí,
That's probably why they bombarded Argentina.
So, yeah.
Sobre algo más sobre la modernidad de Evita. Hay un rock en el medio de la película, estilo The Clash.
That's why in the middle of the film, going back to the modernism in Evita, how ahead of her time she was, that's why we included this strong, like, The Clash-like rock song in the middle of the film.
Right.
Y
It is
pusimos...
The Clash, isn't it?
No,
It's not The Clash. I thought it was The Clash.
es una evocación de la...
We wanted to resemble,
Sure.
bring it.
Pero la voz que canta es la voz de Evita.
But we actually used Evita's voice for that song.
Parece que está cantando casi rap,
She seems to be almost like rapping,
pero no hubo montaje de la dinámica. Canta en ese tempo.
but that's how she was actually singing. We didn't enhance the singing or, like, edit it that much.
Es el verdadero ritmo de su voz, el ataque.
That's her real cadence and pacing and delivery.
Es punk.
She was a punk too.
There's she was a punk, yeah. There's a great scene with the two soldiers, the colonel, and I guess is it the private in the truck? I mean, that whole scene is an incredible scene. It so plays out so well for so many reasons. But there's a part where the colonel gets upset with the younger soldier and says, "I ask the questions." Do you think on some level for you, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, frankly, as a philosopher, I think, is that what interests you? Do you want the younger generation to continue asking questions? The colonel shut him down.
Sí, yo trato de que la pregunta despierte... Perdón. Trato de que la película despierte preguntas en el espectador.
Absolutely. I want the film to generate questions in not only the younger generation, but in the broader audience.
So I guess we'll wrap it up here in a couple of minutes, but I do have a couple more things I'd love to ask you about, if that's okay. Do we still have a couple more minutes? Yeah. You good?
The screening.
Oh yes, you have a screening coming up, at 4:15. Is that right? It's coming up. Yes, in like 40.
Very, very fast.
Very fast.
Not
4
far
o'clock.
from
So
the-
you're just around the corner.
Not
Can I
far.
ask you one more question?
Okay.
And then we wrap up. Yeah. So there's another scene where, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but somebody's talking about their education, and they say, yes, I was schooled well, and I was schooled in God, the nation, science, and sport. And then the conversation goes to obedience, and I couldn't help but think of this critique of Western culture: God, science, nation, sport. So you're attacking, you're critiquing popular culture, you're critiquing diversion, you're critiquing the status quo in a few frames.
Sí, es peligroso, ahora me da miedo.
It is actually very dangerous, and now I'm realizing that. Scary.
Pero sí, y todo eso desemboca en obediencia. Y eso remite a una ley que se promulgó después de la última dictadura.
So the key here would be obedience from all this that you're mentioning, and that takes us to this law that was passed during the dictatorship,
Después de la peor dictadura.
after the worst part of the dictatorship.
La ley de obediencia debida, que dice que los soldados cometieron atrocidades, pero porque estaban obligados de obedecer a sus superiores.
So the law can be translated as the life obedience, and it says that all the military and different capacities, they did commit atrocities towards humanity, but it was because they were carrying orders.
Que la obediencia es la obligación del soldado, y eso se encuentra tanto en la religión como en las Fuerzas Armadas, y es algo que ha justificado atrocidades desde la religión y desde el ejército.
And you can find obedience at the center of both religion and the military structure, and a lot of atrocities have been committed in the name of obedience.
And on that cheery note, we're going to end our interview because these guys have to get to a film. So thank you for your time today, your generosity, and congratulations. Thanks.